I think Restore Britain might be hitting its first real test. And I don't mean electorally, I mean psychologically. Because since Makerfield, you can kind of see a change in the way that the party seems to be operating. And I'm beginning to wonder, can Restore survive the level of its scrutiny they've experienced lately? Because ever since the first poll came out in Makerfield, which showed that Restore was potentially splitting the right-wing vote, we were inundated with articles and commentary saying, well, pretty much the same thing. Why does this even exist? Why are they splitting the right again? Who asked for this? They're just anti-Nigel Farage. They're the new BNP. I mean, there were so many articles. There were so many clips. And the whole time I was reading them or watching them and I was thinking, are you actually this confused? Or are we doing that thing where we pretend to be confused? Because the real answer is wildly inconvenient.
I don't know her.
Because I actually don't think the question should be, why does Restore Britain exist anymore? I think the question has to be, what happens next? Now, to be absolutely clear, I'm not a member of Restore Britain. I'm not a member of any political party. I still kind of consider myself politically homeless, which in Britain feels less like a personality trait and more like the fastest growing demographic. But when I look at Restore Britain, I really, really understand why people responded to it. I totally get it. But I also think we're about to find out whether that response actually holds up under pressure. Because let's just rewind for a second. People keep talking about Restore like it just randomly appeared one day. Like one morning, the voters woke up and said, you know what would be really, really fun today? Splitting the right.
No, 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 no.
No, that's not how people behave. People don't look to create chaos. They move towards something that feels clearer, and fragmentation, that's just what happened after that. Because Restore didn't appear out of nowhere like some rogue little side quest. Yes, contextually, it comes from a dispute between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe getting kicked out of Reform. But of course, that's not the whole story. The real story is much, much simpler. A group of voters looked at Reform and went, hang on a second, you've changed.
Yesterday, we had a piece of cheese and it was very good.
And not in a cute glow-up kind of a way either. In a, are we doing this again kind of a way.
It's been 84 years.
Because Reform was supposed to be clear. That was the entire appeal of it. Anti-establishment energy, but still coherent. A bit rebellious, but still structured. Half grassroots, half serious. You sort of knew what it was, and you kind of understood what it was building towards, but suddenly, ex-Tory MPs were welcomed in, including the people tied to the exact frustrations that built the Reform movement in the first place. The messaging started to orbit more around Nigel's image rather than the reason that people showed up to it in the first place.
But I can't help it that I'm popular.
And the whole thing starts to feel a bit familiar, a bit recycled, a bit, haven't we been here before? And it also is beginning to feel at times a bit contradictory. I'm talking about you, lampposts of Canterbury. And that energy, that exact, wait, we've been here before, that's where Restore comes from. It's not from chaos, it's not necessarily from an ego, it's not even Elon Musk pressing a big red start party button. It's just a very simple reaction. I want something that actually means what it says. And I think this is where the conversation becomes a bit unserious, because every single time Restore comes up, we get given the same explanations. They're just angry at Nigel. They've been manipulated. They're all a bit extreme. But none of that actually answers the question of what is drawing people to them in the first place. Because what's actually driving the popularity here isn't just policy. It's something much deeper, much more emotionally driven.
We saw him heading straight towards the mountains, some 70 kilometers away.
Because when you watch Rupert Lowe's launch video, and honestly, it is so simple that it's kind of offensive that other parties haven't done it. His whole launch video is about legacy. That's it. People want to feel like their life is building towards something, a family, a community, a country that still feels recognizable, and more importantly, a life that matters. And right now, a lot of people aren't sure they're going to have that. Because young people are looking at their futures and thinking, maybe I won't own a home. Maybe I won't have a family. Maybe life doesn't get better than this. I mean, I know I am. And then along comes Lowe, standing on his farm, talking about continuity and history, protection, seasons. And suddenly you have someone saying your past matters and your future matters too.
I love you. I never wish to be parted from you from this day on.
But more importantly, he's saying that this country should mean something. And that emotion is the height of romanticism. And yes, there has been a lot of projection onto Restore and Lowe from some of his fan base. But that instinct that your life should mean something, you can't fake that. You can't algorithm your way into that. It's either in you or it isn't. Because what people responded to in Restore wasn't Rupert Lowe. It was that video. It was that story. It was this very, very simple message of this is what the country is, this is what it could be, and this is why it matters. That's what people connected to. And I think this is where something really important is starting to go wrong. Because Rupert isn't the product. He's the facilitator of it. That video worked because he looked like the person leading something bigger than himself. He was not the thing himself. And I think that's what's starting to happen in Reform, is they're drifting into making him the product, which is a problem because the moment your movement becomes a person, you don't have a party anymore. You have a political influencer.
She doesn't even go here.
And personalities are powerful, yeah, but they're not stable.
This is fine.
And we've seen this in Reform, where the strength is Nigel. I mean, he inherited the party and made it into Reform now. But that has also become its limitation. Because personality can carry a movement, but it can't replace clarity of direction. And that's why this moment matters so much to Restore, because the moment it stops being about the story and starts being about Rupert, you lose the very thing that people showed up for. Now, let's talk about everyone's favourite by-election. Makerfield. Okay, 7%, yeah. On paper, that could absolutely be its peak. But what I find more interesting about the whole Makerfield situation is that before the result even came in, before anything had actually happened, there was already this wave of this is dangerous, this is divisive, this must be stopped. And why are you trying to shut something down before it's even proven itself? Because that's fascinating behaviour for something that's apparently irrelevant. Because you don't mobilise that level of commentary against something that you think is nothing. You do it when you think it might matter. But I do think something interesting is starting to happen. Obviously, I don't have proof of this. Of course I don't. But I think it's still worth saying it out loud. Because this is the stage that every new movement goes through. The beginning is exciting. Everyone agrees. The vision is clear. The energy is there. And then the pressure rises. Media narratives, labels, internal disagreements, wild expectations, poor hiring choices. And suddenly it's not just an idea anymore. It's now become something real.
Hello.
And I think Makerfield might be that moment. The moment that it stopped being an idea and was forced to become something real. I don't think it was the peak of the party, but it was the point where Restore actually had to decide what it was. Because I can kind of imagine that if you're constantly told you're far right, you're extreme, you're dangerous over and over and over again, I bet it does something. Even to people who say they don't care. And I think it might have affected the party, whether they admit to it or not.
Why you always lying?
And this is why Makerfield might matter more than it looks like it should. Not because of the result itself, though, let's be clear, this party is not even 5 months old yet. That's an incredibly impressive result. But because this is the first real moment of pressure, the first real moment where the movement has to decide, do we hold the line or do we adjust? Because if it becomes just another blurred version of what already exists, then it will disappear into the exact same space people were trying to leave from. And I think this is where it gets a bit frustrating to watch, because this cannot just descend into two men being angry at each other.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Because if you strip all of this back, What people actually wanted was something that felt like it was building towards something. And when it starts to look like the same dynamic that we've seen before, it just becomes depressing. Because at the end of the day, this can't be about Rupert or Nigel.
To say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is.
Because absolutely, yes, Rupert has so much credibility. I mean, he's done things. He seems like a really good MP. He has receipts. He shows up time and time again, and that's why people will listen to him. But that's exactly why it matters that he doesn't become the product. Because goodwill towards a person is not the same thing as a belief in the future.
Ha-ha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
And one of those will fade a lot faster than the other, because just watching this from the sidelines, I'm beginning to wonder if they don't need another strategist or a social media manager. They need a product manager.
You guys are in a crisis. I'm on my way.
Someone whose entire job it is to walk into every meeting, put that launch video on the screen and ask, does what we're working on still feel like this? Does every tweet reflect this? Does every interview say this? Does every candidate reflect it? Does every decision moving forward feel like we're moving this forward? Does everything that we do still feel like that? Because that video, that's the product. Everything else around it is just noise. And you can tell this is what happens when you have something growing so fast, but you don't have someone constantly holding the vision down. So whether you agree with Lowe or not, there is momentum there. But momentum is not the same thing as durability. In the next few months, that's where we're going to find out the difference. So no, I don't think Restore has peaked. I certainly hope it hasn't. I think they're just starting to forget what people actually showed up for in the first place.
And another one gone, and another one gone, another one burned to dust, yeah!
But look, maybe I'm reading too much into this and everything is fine and dandy. It's just the internet being the internet. But as always, let me know what you think below. I really, really value your opinion. And do think about giving me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.